This is a test. This station is conducting a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test.
James McMahon Music Podcast. James McMahon Music Podcast. James McMahon Music Podcast. James McMahon Music Podcast. He speaks to the geeks and the musical freaks, but sometimes popular but mostly a freak because he's James McMahon Music Podcast. James McMahon Music Podcast.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
David, I was just looking at a video of you with your face covered in bees.
That comes up a lot.
Yeah. What was that like?
I
fucking hate bees, you know.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't think I was a friend before, and I don't know if this moved me in the direction. I mean, here's the thing. They treated me well. There was about 10,000 of them, you know?
Right.
And
I just worry they'd go in a hole.
Oh, no, that was exactly my thought too. The beekeeper, Barry, of course his name's Barry the beekeeper. Of course, before we did this, I had watched videos of people doing it. You know what I mean? I know it has been done before. I can survive this. But these other people always put things up their noses, like little, something just to your point, the bee would not go up there.
Oh, right.
In our haste, because we were shooting a music video, we had so many other things going on. I forgot to, obstruct the path. And I told Barry, it's like, Barry, wait a second. I don't want these bees going up my nose. And I was already, I was like strapped in, ready to go. And he's coming at me with a bucket of bees. I mean, literally. And he dumps them on me. He's like, I don't want him to go up there either. He was unfazed by the prospect of one of his little worker bees going up my nose. He said, I don't want it to happen, but we'll see. And
fuck Barry.
Yeah.
Fuck Barry. And also just fuck bees. Like, I hate insects. People
hate them all.
I hate them all. Like, people say all the time, all this bullshit, like, oh, well, ecology needs them, the ecosystem needs them. Without insects, we'd be in a lot of trouble. And I don't fucking care. Like, I'd stand on every single one of them. And bees are the ones, like, they're like the virtuous insects. People are like, oh, bees are so great, they do this, they do that. No, fuck bees. Fuck
bees, man. Come on.
When you write a song called Still Buzzin', there's only so many music video ideas, so we had to come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, respect to you. I used to. Do you get the Guinness Book of World Records over where you are?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is, after all, a global institution. But quite often, like when I was a kid, I'd be reading that and there'd be someone covered in bees. And obviously I was like, fuck that guy, fuck the bees, but also kind of respect, because it's something to do, isn't it?
It sucks.
Yeah. Did you watch the Super Bowl last night?
I did. Did you?
No, because it's not really a proper sport.
Oh, yeah. We're going in on it now. Okay. All right.
I mean, it is. I mean, I just don't understand it. Every year, because I like films and I like snacks and I want to watch the trailers and eat snacks. I always think, oh, the Super Bowl's made for me. And then every year I find myself trying to understand the rules about an hour before it starts, and that doesn't work. I don't understand the rules, and then I just get bored within about an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that.
I'm from here in the United States, and I don't understand the rules either. I'm asking questions half the time, so
I like the sport, and I don't even understand all the rules. So I mean, I think it's not to be understood.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah. No, fuck American football as well. Listen, I am going to get into talking about music, but I need to address something else, which is stressing me out. Your band name stresses me out.
Hey.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Orphan, the poet, should there be a comma in there?
Oh, man, you are an astute person, because what's that called? In a positive? We're going in on some grammar. So maybe.
Well, I just feel a bit like, are you saying that the orphan is a poet? Like the orphan, the person who like lost their parents, they dealt with the pain of losing their parents by writing poetry, or are you talking about an orphan and a poet?
Man,
Ooh.
this is such a good question.
Thanks.
I would say that you're correct that there should be a comma, but when writing a band name, apostrophes and commas get confusing for everyone. So we just said no comma.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
your
You are
reasoning is
100%
correct.
right.
Listen, I'm from the generation. Do you know a band called the Chick Chick Chick?
Yeah, the three
I don't
exclamation
know.
points. Yeah,
Exactly. You know, I mean, that was all a bit. That was hard work writing
yeah.
about them. Anyway, listen, I've been listening to your new single, and it feels dangerously melodic.
Mm.
Uh, um, the world is falling apart. Everything is terrible. How dare you sound like you're having fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fun line to walk. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, I don't know, that resonates with me of just like, hey, it's a fucking shit show, but like, let's dance through for lack of a better word, daisies. You know what I mean? Some of my favorite music scenes, or not music scenes, movie scenes are kind of like that. You know what I mean? It's like the way Jake and I, we always think about, or we like to think about songs as movies and stuff. And like, there's so many times it's just like the world's falling apart, but there's like some heartfelt moment in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always feel torn, to be honest. There's part of me that's like, there's part of me that feels a little bit like artists have a duty to capture the state, the shit show that is the world. And then there's also part of me that just goes, the most defiant thing, like almost the most political thing you can do is to not comment on the world, but to actually celebrate,
Mhm.
joy in all the reasons why we get up in the morning. That defiance almost feels quite admirable to me. And I think I probably fall into that camp with your band.
Mm. That
Yeah,
means a
we
lot.
we definitely like think about that kind of stuff. I mean, if there's any small amount of joy you can experience in the ever present world ending, we like to hold on to that as much as possible.
Yeah.
Jake, are you wearing a headband?
No, I just have a lot of hair and headphones.
Is there not a headband under the hair?
No,
It's
it's
just
just
straight up. It's
a
just
lot of hair.
double
I
dark
mean,
side.
I mean, from where
Take
I
a
am,
whiff.
it really looks like you're wearing a
It's
hairband.
it's just too much hair, is what it is.
British people. I mean, I don't need a hairband, but British people can't wear hairbands. How did you two meet?
How did we meet, Jake?
Well, we both grew up in very very small towns in Ohio.
Not
When
the
I
same
say
town.
small, not
Yeah.
the same town, about a couple hours away from each other. But there's only so many music venues that you can go to, and both I think our central locations were about an hour away. So we would see each other at shows and play in bands in the area. We played in a couple of bands together before this, and then when we wanted to start this, we were always we always say that we were the two people that took it really seriously in our area, and we just clicked kind of from the start there and started making music.
That's the thing you figure out, like, when you are a musician. Uh, Musicians are the worst. Like, we're just an awful lot of people. You know what I mean? We're late, we're moody, we think our art matters, and you know what I mean? Like, so it's we're set up to like disagree with each other. But Jake and I found a common chorus, I guess, and the everyone else kind of fell to the wayside.
Do you know what I think about artists? And at the risk of saying something that means no artist will ever want to come on my podcast again, I do like musicians more than bees. Is the
Roaring endorsement. Roaring endorsement.
Yeah. I mean, there is a band in the UK called, well, there's a band in Ireland called the Bees, but that might be lost on the two of you. Because I was in a band, and I was in a band with fairly, reasonable people, decent people. Some of them are still my friends. Most of them are still my friends all these years on. But like, there's something about being in a band that just makes people arseholes. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's because, I don't think artists get a pretty good deal anymore anyway. I mean, no one really does it for the money. It's something that takes an awful lot out of you, whether that's touring or the sleepless nights or staying up late. All these things aren't conductive to like living a very healthy life. But there's something about as soon as people get in bands, they just become much more difficult people. Do you find that?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think I'm a more difficult person in the band. Like, compared to like, my other civilian life of like I'm not an asshole in the grocery store, but like, I'll be an asshole in the tour van. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is.
I think I mean, our whole job is we're sensitive people who care about our art, but we're also standing on stage saying, look at me, everyone pay attention to me. I'm loud. Look,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess that if I was interviewing a comedian, because comedians say this sort of stuff all the time, they're sort of like, all comedians are, they've got problems, otherwise you wouldn't do it. Uh, why do you do it?
Mm.
What is it about making music that you think as people you need?
That's a good question because I mean I think about that too sometimes of like, mate, wait, why do I do this? It's kind of like not to get super like woo woo, but it's like why does the I don't think the caterpillar knows why it makes the cocoon.
Oh, I love
You
that.
It's just like,
This podcast gets very woo, by the way. So just
okay, well, hey, let's lean into it. I don't know if the caterpillar knows why it makes the cocoon. It just kind of like, I gotta do this thing, and something cool comes out on the other side. But like, I don't always know why we set out on the path to begin with. But we love it. But like sometimes in the moment you don't love it. So I don't know. I don't know, Jake. What do
yeah.
you
I
think?
mean, even in times where like, you're on tour and the trailer tire busts and you have to fix it on the side of the highway. I mean, I don't think there's ever a point where we're like, oh, we'll just go home now. It's just fix the problem at hand and keep going
Yeah,
forward to get to the show.
yeah. Like an innateness of like just forward. I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, like, yeah, at some place, oh, you have to say I love it or I wouldn't do it. But like moment to moment, sometimes you're like, wait a second, we're all choosing this. Like that burst trailer tire or tire on the side of the road or whatever. Like those are the moments that definitely you wonder.
Yeah, I mean, people in the old days, people used to like John Bon Jovi. Literally, I mean, was like, I don't really care about music. I just want to get laid. Like, and that was like
No,
and then
important.
there was this period of time where bands, I suppose it was Nirvana and that kind of wave of bands. Uh, that viewpoint was deemed as being not not really the sort of people that you didn't really kind of want in the scene. But I
Mhm.
always sort of thought there was at least some sort of there was at least some kind of authenticity to it, actually, that someone could be so clear and going, well, I just think it's a good opportunity to meet girls, And I prefer my artists to be like, there is something inside of me that I have to get out. But I do
Yeah.
think it is interesting. Like the further into, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but the further that we get into this very confusing state of play that is the music industry in 2024, where there's no money in it and there's too many bands, if there
Hmm.
could be such a thing, and the spoils are so small,
Hmm.
it does make me question why people do it. I mean, it has to be a love of performing. It has to be a love of music, surely.
Yeah, and also I think that's it performing for us. Like there are some bands, in 2024 that like they don't need to tour or touring or in live performance just isn't part of what they do. That's not part of their art. And that's fine. I'm not here to cast stones at anyone. But for our band, the live show was like that was always like that's the reason you write music. That's the reason you put out music because we grew up watching bands play live. You know what I mean? And so like it was always about being on stage for me and I think Jake too. So
Yeah.
I think that half hour, 45 minutes, that hour long, whatever set we're playing that we have on stage every night, that's kind of like a little bit of it's still a sacred thing for us. We talk about having this little moment before we go on stage, and to not rush by that because that little like spark for us, for our band, that is still like that's still sacred, the live performance part of it. So I think enjoying being on stage, no matter, we'll play in small clubs. We've opened for bigger artists in these, larger arenas and stuff. And no matter what, having that little sacred performance nugget that we still treasure, I think, is really important to us.
Yeah, I think we definitely like care just as much about the live show as we do writing a good song or a good chorus. Like it all, some bands, they write the song and they just go up there and stand on stage and play really well, and that's great. But we really care about the performance side of it and making sure that everyone is having a good time at our shows.
How do you what's the live show like? Because obviously there's the two of you. Do you have other musicians involved?
Yeah, yeah. So we play always with a live drummer. And I mean, our dream is to build out the rest of the band. We'll have, obviously multiple guitar parts, horn sections and stuff in our recorded music. One day I would love to be in front of a freaking, big band ensemble. But yeah, we always play with at least one or two other people on stage.
So if there's the orphan and there's the poet, is there like a baker and an architect?
Yeah, I think you got it.
Yeah. You got to cover all the trades. You know what I mean? We need a balanced society. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking. I used to work at a magazine in the UK. I used to be the editor of a big music magazine, and we used to do a lot with 21 Pilots. And 21 Pilots really were. I mean, they were like a gift. There was a moment in time that if you put them on the cover, we could just drown in good sales that week. They really were a phenomenon. But also the fact that you're from close by, it did make me think whether there could only be duos from your part of the world. If there was something, if there was like a sort of an agreement, kind of back in the day with the founding fathers that bands that came out of your area could only be duos.
At least in Ohio, I mean, we got the Black Keys, we got 21 Pilots. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. Something's in the water here. I don't know what it is. It's just like, we're real into, I don't know, what is that? Band monogamy. Like it's just.
Yeah, actually, don't comment on this because I don't want you to get yourselves in trouble. But I'm pretty sure if what I've read in the press is correct, that the Black Keys aren't into monogamy, but that might just be something that I read.
Okay, right.
A little bit
interesting.
A little bit of scandal there. There was a little bit of scandal, celebrity gossip at one point a few years back. When did you get this going though? Was it 2016?
Yeah, we've been playing bands together. Yeah, before, but 2016 is kind of when we were like, oh, this is it. This is what we want to do now.
Yeah.
Okay, so without being rude, where the fuck is the album?
That is a good question. I think.
I mean, what you do? What you doing? It's like normally when I got an email from the person who's doing your press in the UK, the lovely Angela Owen, and she was like, oh, this band, the Orphan, the Poet, they've got a new single, and I was like, yeah, but where's the record? They've been around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a valid question. I think we ask ourselves that. It's been an interesting ride, for multiple reasons, and I mean, I would be lying if I said that the current music distribution or like the way they want you to put out music is sometimes at odds with us. Our artist brain, because I grew up listening to albums. Like, I value an album. I still value an album, but when it's hey, put out a song every 6 weeks or whatever. Sometimes you feel like you're on a treadmill. And for me personally, sometimes that is a little bit of like I don't know. I don't feel as artistic sometimes. You know what I mean? That's no excuse for not putting out an album. I think we have an album in our brains we've been playing for the past 3 years, but it's just getting it out there, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of acts that I speak to these days who really do question whether they want to make an album. Mm-hmm. I think that as like a vessel for art, as a vessel to express themselves, as a collection, as a way to put their songs into the ether, I think that most of them still believe in the idea of an album. But I think their main thinking is that because of a lot of the things we've discussed before about how broken a lot of things that we took for granted within music making are, that there's a feeling that you can put out an album and it can almost have a shelf life of 24 hours. And that's quite demoralizing. So actually sticking with singles or songs or EPs, like things that can come and go, and then you can try something else. I mean, I've always been more of a song guy than an album guy anyway, but I would hate to lose that format.
Yeah. for sure. And also there's something to be said about like, maybe albums they have their own ecosystem they need to exist in. If streaming is a single man's game, not a singles game, whatever. Maybe we just haven't figured out how to do albums right yet. You know what I mean? Like there could just be a new way of album consumption we're not even thinking of. And it might not be streaming centric. I don't know what that is, but I think the album will exist on. Just I'm just not sure what form.
Yeah, I
You
like
know,
seeing bands like Green Day who are putting out, an incredible or just put out an incredible record, like
Hmm.
building it up to where it's not just the 24-hour shelf life. It's out and then it's done. They're doing all the press, all the interviews, all the late night stuff. I think that is cool, and having that kind of like um, big press circuit surrounding a release like an album. You can't necessarily do that around a single. It takes a full album to have that kind of grandiose, you know, pop culture moment.
Yeah.
do you want to know a good Green Day fact?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
So I interviewed Green Day it was just before the pandemic. It was the last time I went to the States. It was in Oakland. It was at their rehearsal rooms. And in the toilet in their studio, it's just full of photos of buffalo. It's quite weird, isn't it? I've always wanted just to tell someone that because when I wrote the piece that I wrote, the reason I was there was no reason to put that in. So
Yeah.
the only person I think I've told that is my wife, and she was like, "Oh, cool, whatever." But I just thought,
I love that.
given you like Green Day, and you brought Green Day up, I thought I'd just say to you and the listeners that their toilet is full of pictures of buffalo.
Love it.
That's so interesting and random. I love that.
What animal would be hung on the wall of the Orphan the Poet toilet?
Ooh. Um, Jake, what's your instinct?
Probably like a trout.
Yeah, I was gonna say a sardine, but yeah, trout. Yeah, it's a noble fish.
Do they have trout in America?
I
Oh
believe
yeah.
so, right? Wait, are trout? Which one are trout? Trout? Oh yeah, we have trout for sure. I've seen a
Yeah.
trout. Yeah,
Don't
rainbow
really like.
trout.
I'm not sure I like that, to be honest. I feel like trout are
Those are
very.
yours. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, America has like coyotes and bald eagles, and like we have the shit animals. We're the one. We're
That's
the
Bond.
ones.
Yeah.
We're the
Maybe we
ones who
can
have.
talk.
Do you know what a pike is?
I think
How
so.
big? Yeah, a pike, a big ugly fish, right? It's like a
Yeah,
weird
a pike.
looking.
A
Yeah.
pike is like it's like because like all of our wildlife is like what everyone else does, but worse. So other people have like sharks, and we have pikes.
Okay.
I'm here for it.
That's okay.
Anyway, we're heading way off the rails.
Yeah.
When so there's not really you don't really have a roadmap of the way to an album. Then it's still that you are trying to work out how to do it.
Yeah, we're still figuring it out. I mean, like every artist has a not necessarily a graveyard, but a notebook full of like songs in limbo, and I think even like the way we value songs, like what songs are viable, like if I was just going to sit down and be like, well, they're going to come out as 12 songs, and for instance, this one song in the middle of the album, it doesn't have to make a huge splash, but I just like it, and so it gets to be on the album. But like, man, is it terrifying to put out those little like off off the wall nugget songs in a streaming era because like, oh, those are going to be pretty fucking weird, and I don't know if they're going to be what someone you want someone to consume as a la carte. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Between these two songs, it makes perfect sense. So, but yeah, I think to your point, figuring out like how we make all of our little song babies jive is an ongoing thing.
The Coldplay did a thing. I can't remember which record it was, but I remember reviewing it and interviewing them around the time of this release for a magazine I used to work for, and they sort of tried to solve that by putting two songs on one track, and one of them was like a more sort of conventional
Hmm.
pop song, and then the other one was like something that maybe would jar if it was just its own track because of streaming, like you say. But it just ended up being really irritating
Hmm.
because you couldn't listen. You couldn't listen to the song as like a singular entity. So, but I do wonder. I think that a lot of where we're at, it reminds me of like the Roadrunner cartoons with like Wile E. Coyote, and he's like always trying to catch Roadrunner, and like he fails every time. I feel like that's where we're at. It's like Wile E. Coyote needs to like take himself off and just work out, just do something completely different, because everything he's doing is just resulting in him getting like a bruised snout. That's how I feel about the music industry right now. We just keep doing the same thing. So yeah, I mean, take your time with an album. I just wonder what it is, though. I just wonder what it is that is going to solve those problems that you've identified.
That's a good question. What do you think, Jay?
I think part of it's like in this day and age, there's a lot of like you have to do it yourself, and so there's so much DIY in everything we do, whether it's touring or social media or writing songs. Even David and I producing a lot of the music ourselves. Like, it seems like there's almost not time to hold up in a studio for 6 months because you have to be doing everything all the time. And some of the beauty of the albums I grew up listening to is bands would just disappear for a year and go make an album, and you don't hear from them, and then all of a sudden they're back and they're on tour and the album's done. So I think part of maybe a little bit of the headache in releasing a big body of work of music is you have to be doing everything all at once. You always have to be on tour. You always have to be posting on social media. You always have to be doing everything. And there's no just single focus on making a big body of music together.
How old are you, Jake?
Ooh, older than you'd think, probably.
Yeah, I think we've both hit the magical 30. So,
I mean, I would have said, David, that you could be late 20s.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like Jake has one of those faces that like could be like
65,
could be like 6, or could be like 30. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
6.
I mean, the reason why I say this, it wasn't just to embarrass you, but it was like, I'm speaking to musicians now, like a generation of musicians that just didn't really know any other way than what you described. It's that thing of like, I'm quite old now, I'm 43. So like, I've really seen like seismic changes in music in the time I've been alive. But I speak to people now who are maybe like mid-20s, late 20s, even younger. And like they've never really known music making where it hasn't been a treadmill, and that kind of makes me feel a bit sad, really. Because like it shouldn't be as exhausting, I think, as you've described. But do you find that rewarding, the fact that you have to be so involved across the board?
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't rewarding at times. I mean, like the fact that we can do all this stuff ourselves and we don't need a person at a major record label to say, okay, now you can be a band. We can just do it on our own. And especially like we were saying earlier, where David and I grew up, there wasn't a music venue near me. So when I first picked up a guitar and first started playing in bands when I was in junior high, one of the first things I did was book a VFW hall and had a friend with a sound system. And then we had a show. So we kind of like, our lives were born without needing someone to tell us we can do what we want. We put on our own shows. We had punk bands coming through our area, and touring bands would just play in our small towns, and it was all just us doing it ourselves. So I think it's nice to be able to do it yourself, but it is also frustrating and stressful and a lot of work that I wish I didn't have to do all the time.
Yes, that sounds very much like how I view life. I think good things are coming for you guys, though. I do think you're obviously two very, don't want to sound like I'm doing an end of term report here, but I do think the two of you are incredibly able. I think you write really good songs, and the time that I spent with your music when I was preparing to have this conversation, I was probably the happiest I'd been in ages, just because of the joy and the effervescence that comes across in your music. So yeah, keep it up, he says patronizingly. Are you sure, Jake, that you're not wearing a hairband? I just can't.
There, it's just too much hair. I was thinking this morning that I need a haircut. So
or a hairband.
Or a hairband, yeah.
Or a hairband. When are you coming to the UK? I'll take you to see a Trout.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think we've been talking with our manager and our partners, and I think everyone's like, let's do it, but I don't know. I don't know what that. Do we just buy plane tickets and that's it? Like, what else do we need to do? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to get on a plane.
Yeah. I grew up watching all those like big festival videos from all the UK pop and rock festivals, and I think like that's always been on a bucket list of mine to play in front of that crowd. And a lot of our favorite bands are from over your way, so we need to make it happen.
Yeah, we want to.
Well, I'll keep an eye out, and I'll source where the best place to see Trout are, and hopefully we can have a nice day out together. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Speak to you again, I'm sure. Take care. Bye bye.